off in the last scene. And what we want to do is actually add a little bit more geometry to these spokes so we can make them nice and round. But I also want to add some geometry to the hub because whenever we apply NURBS, this is really going to just blend in with the spokes. And I want to actually see a hub here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's select our object, and we're going to go to Edge Mode. And what I want to do is select one edge on each spoke and hit Ring, and then I'm going to use a Connect, or the Connect tool, to actually make a segment dissecting all of those edges. Okay, so let's go to our next one. We're going to hit Ring, and we're going to use Connect. Do that. And let's do this to the last one. We're going to do Ring and Connect. Okay. So at this point, you could go ahead and inspect your wheel here. So let's go to our perspective view and make sure that it cut through the other side as well. Now what we need to do is actually continue on with this geometry. We need to make a cut through the hub so we can round this out. So what we're going to do is select these two edges here on this one side, and we're going to do a Connect, and what that will do is create a segment there, just so we don't have to cut all the way around this. We can just make one cut on each side. So we'll select these two, and we'll do Connect, and we'll do these two and Connect. Alright, so now we're ready to go ahead and move over to our vertex mode, and we're going to use Cut to connect this vertex to this one, and this one to this one, and same thing here. So let's right click, and we're going to go to Cut. So we're going to start with this vertex here on the spoke, and we're going to go to the opposite vertex. Now whenever you are finished creating that line, just right click, and that will stop the cutting process, and you can start a brand new cut. So let's start it with this one, and we'll go over to this one, and we'll right click, okay, and we'll start a new one. So we'll click on this one, and we're going to make sure that we hit this middle one on the way through, just so it connects properly. Now you'll notice that it's giving us this little flashing dotted line, and it's basically saying that it doesn't know what surface you want to cut on. So what we're going to do is right click one time, and we're going to cut from this vertex to this one. Okay, so let's do the same thing on the other side, just cutting from one vertex to its opposite. And then on this one we're going to stop in the middle. And again, we're getting that little warning there. It doesn't know what surface to cut on. So we'll start from the opposite vertex and then there in the middle. Now, whenever we have a cut like that, we want to make sure that we are checking our vertices just to make sure that there's not more than one on top of each other. So let's right click to end our cutting session, and let's just select this vertex right here. Now, you'll notice it says 2 vertices selected, so we will have to go ahead and do a weld to make sure that that's just one vertex there. So we're going to hit Weld, and you'll see that that has changed to Vertex 207. Now remember that that is a label, not necessarily the count of vertices that you have selected. Okay? Whenever it says something like 2 vertices selected, that's how many you have. If it says Vertex 207, or in this case, well, let's see here, let's hit Weld. In this case, Vertex 205 selected, that's the actual number of that vertex. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and let's select all of the vertices here. We're going to do a marquee selection around them. And we're holding Control, and we're making sure that we've got all of those selected, and we need to make sure we get this guy right here. And we're going to use our Scale tool to basically scale them out away from one another. So I'm going to scale this in the X, and in this case Z direction, and you'll see that we're getting this nice round shape here for our hub. Okay, so what I want to do now is go ahead and select the vertices on each of these edges on the front side as well as the back side here, so I can scale them in to make this spoke really round. Like right now it's very, very square and rectangular. So let's go to Edge Mode, and what I want to do is actually select one of these edges, and I'm going to hit Ring. Okay, and what we've done here is we have selected the ring all the way around this hub, And what I'm going to do now is actually convert this selection over to vertex. So if I hold down Control and I go to vertex mode, you'll now notice that the vertices that are selected were actually part of the edges that we had previously selected. So what we've done is converted our edge selections over to vertex selections. Okay, so we just did that by holding down Control and selecting a new sub-object mode. Now I want to go ahead and actually hold down Alt and deselect these on the end of the spokes because I don't actually want to scale those. And I also want to deselect any vertices that I have selected on my hub. Okay, so I'm holding down Alt and dragging the mouse, doing a marquee selection. And now with these selected, I can go ahead and scale them in toward the middle. And you'll see that this is really rounding out our spoke. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply our NURMS subdivisions. So let's scroll down and we see Use NURMS subdivisions. Let's go ahead and check that. And you'll see that this is starting to smooth out quite nicely, but we are losing some of our detail in our hub. I want that to be a little more pronounced. So what we need to do is actually add some resolution. So what I want to do is actually take my iterations up to 2 just to smooth that out a little bit more. And I'm going to go ahead and create some more geometry around this hub to tighten it up a little bit. So let's use our Swift Loop tool. And let's just make a cut right here above this hub here. Okay, so that's starting to tighten it up just a little bit here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and actually select these polygons on the inside and do an inset, and that'll tighten it up even more. Now we're going to convert our selections again. So what we're going to do is select these vertices right here in the middle. So I have 2 vertices selected. And I'm going to go ahead and hold down Control and convert it over to a polygon. So now the polygons that were touching that one vertex have now been selected. So this is a great way to speed up your workflow process. So I'm going to go ahead and use Inset, and that's going to bring it in a little bit. I'm just going to bring that in just a small amount. I'm probably going to do 0.25 here. And I'm going to go ahead and actually add another inset to this. Now instead of hitting OK and choosing Inset again, I can actually hit this Apply and Continue, and that'll do another inset, and I can actually adjust how much that inset's there. Okay, so I'm going to bring this in. Let's go to 1, see what that looks like. Let's do 1.5. And I'm going to hit OK on this. And what I'm going to do now with these selected is I'm going to go ahead and extrude this out because I want a little bit of shape coming off of this hub. So I'm going to bring this back down, and let's go down to, let's go to 1. Let's just type in 1 there and hit OK. And I need to tighten up these creases here just to show that this is not one continuous piece. It could be a separate piece. So I'm going to go to Edge, and I'm going to select this edge right here and hit Loop. And I'm going to crease that all the way up and do the same thing to the other side. So I'm going to hit Loop just to select all of those edges that are connected end to end and crease that loop. Okay, so now let's turn off edge mode and let's take a look at our spoke that we have here. So this is looking pretty nice here. I'm just going to do a quick render on this. And we've got a lot of nice detail in here, and we could sharpen up the edges on these spokes, but these are actually going to be inside of our rim, so we may not have to do that. So in the next lesson, what we're going to do is actually build the wheel of our front